Welcome into another Locked On NFL Insider Report. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Isaiah Stanback, our Locked On NFL Insider, here to help us out with some of these number one seeds in the NFL playoffs. They're in action. They've had their week of rest. They're going to be back at it this weekend on Saturday. And there's a couple of really good matchups that we're going to get to see. And I'm, for one, very excited about it. One of those most talked about, we're going to see Aaron Rodgers out there with the Green Bay Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who have already upset the Cowboys. And that was a bit of a surprise to some. So can they do this again?
You know what? This is going to be one heck of a showdown. Obviously, the 49ers showed up and completely just manhandled, bully balled, whatever you want to refer to it as, to the Dallas Cowboys last week, taking care of business in Dallas with the wild card game. And now they have to go into Green Bay. And Green Bay is not just a normal Green Bay. Green Bay is coming off of the MVP year with obviously their QB1, Aaron Rodgers. And now he's up for, again, the 2021-2022 MVP award again. These guys are playing really good ball. And one of the things that makes the Green Bay Packers very dangerous this year, even more so than in previous years, is their ability to run the ball. They have a two-headed monster with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and both of those guys are able to run downhill, which enables them to be able to stay in nice short down and distances, which allows for them to continue to move the chains. And if you give Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Mr. MVP Aaron Rodgers, the running game, now you have everything at his disposal. Now he has his play action. Now he can drop back. Now he always can, he can dink and dunk you. He doesn't have to take the big shots with Devontae Adams and take his big plays, his big chunk plays. He can work his way down the field, and he has the confidence and experience and the patience to do so. On the flip side, you got the 49ers, and these guys are bully ball. You saw Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel coming out the locker room the other day, and they were juiced up. They're going to try to do the same thing again and come out here and try to manhandle the Green Bay Packers front seven, and they're fully capable of doing so. They ran for 169 yards against the Dallas Cowboys, and they plan on doing that again with this Shanahan offense. You know who they are. Their identity hasn't changed all year long, and it's just going to come down to whether or not they're able to initiate and have an effective running game. Because if they can't, they're going to have to take things to the air. And I don't think that they're fully confident in Jimmy Garoppolo's ability to beat Green Bay in a passing duo versus Aaron Rodgers.
And it's never easy to throw the ball in Green Bay at this time of year. That running game for Green Bay is going to come up huge for them, especially when it's this cold out there. Is there something to be said? We've talked about Aaron Rodgers. He's having a heck of a season, an MVP-like season. But he's had his issues with the 49ers, whether they've had his number per se, but he's never beaten them in the playoffs. So he's 0 for 3. And most recently in 2020 with this Jimmy Garoppolo team. So is this going to be an issue for them, or is this just something that, it happened to be that way, but he's on fire right now and there's nothing that anybody can do to slow him?
Well, we all know when Aaron Rodgers is on fire, you got to watch out. When he's doing a discount double check belt, or he's telling Chicago Bears, fans that he owns them. One thing we know about him, he doesn't forget. And we can best believe that this is a highly competitive individual who wants redemption against the San Francisco 49ers. He wants to make sure whenever his career ends that he's able to go ahead and circle this game and say that we took care of business against you guys on our way to try to host the Lombardi Trophy. So I can guarantee you that you're going to see the best version of Aaron Rodgers, and I think that Green Bay will obviously overthrow this dominant 49ers offense right now.
Is there something a little bit to be said? I know Green Bay got the week off for the 49ers to kind of ride that momentum because they have been playing.
There's pros and cons to it. And I can tell you from my career, I believe I had 2 first-round buys during my time in the NFL. And unfortunately, we lost both of those games when we came off of those bye weeks. So there's pros in terms of getting your guys healthy, in terms of film study, in terms of being able to be confident and relaxed, and get your game plan together. But there's a downside, again, as you mentioned, to not having that week under your belt of momentum and not being able to go out there and continue, the tear that you had, the weeks prior to. So obviously the 49ers coming off their big win against Dallas, they're going to be feeling good. They came out of that game relatively healthy, and you can expect them to be feeling fully confident coming into this ball game and trying to continue that momentum.
In the other number one seed matchup, the Titans have definitely been taking advantage of their week off. They're getting some players back we haven't seen in a while. Derrick Henry reportedly at practice. So we're hopefully going to see him back out on the field for the first time in a while. And they got the number one seed without him, without a lot of their good players throughout this season. So how scary could they be when they finally come back out on the field this Saturday?
I think this is the one team in the league that nobody wants to face. I mean, you could think about the NFC and all the big time passers that they have. Obviously, they had the Kyler Murrays, they had the Aaron Rodgers, they had the Dak Prescotts, and then you go to the AFC and you think about the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens, and then you have to think about the physical beatdown that you're going to encounter whenever you face the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, his personality is reincarnated now into this onto this entire team, and you know exactly what you're going to get, much like the 49ers when you've played against the Tennessee Titans. And you talk about the advantage of having that first round bye. These guys are a prime example of it. They have been able to get their number one guy, Derrick Henry, back healthy, and we can fully expect him to show up. And he's off the IR list, and you can fully expect to see him show up and play in a big way in this game. Now, what effectiveness would he have coming off this injury? He's been gone for half the season. He only played in 8 games this year, but even though he didn't play in those, even though he only played in 8 games, this dude is still up there in terms of league rushers, which is absolutely insane. Deontay Foreman, who's filled in for him, has been averaging 62 yards per game in his absence. But when Derrick Henry is present, he averages 117 yards per game. It is a major difference when he is present. Oh, and by the way, when you have a Julio Jones and an A.J. Brown that are both healthy on the outside of him as well, this is a very dangerous team heading into the playoffs.
To say the very least, their offense is dangerous. The Bengals have done some spectacular things this season with a young quarterback themselves. What do they need to do if they want to have any chance in this? Seemingly on paper, it looks pretty one-sided, but they do have a shot at this.
Yeah, I believe that they have to come out there and they have to run the ball as well. I mean, now obviously you can't just take, Derrick Henry on and think that you're going to be as effective as him. But they have a Joe Mixon, and that Joe Mixon has been very successful for them this year. He's given them the ability to take a lot of pressure off this second-year QB and off this rookie receiver. They've enabled them to have that play-action game, which has allowed Jamar Chase to go out there and make big plays. Burrow's playing with a lot of confidence, the same type of confidence we saw at LSU. Now he's stepping into the NFL, coming off his injury season, and he is feeling good. He has the Cincinnati Bengals organization, obviously with a lot of momentum, and these guys are still young. They're still young with a couple of veterans sprinkled in there, but if they can get a running game going and they can really kind of negate the ability of Tennessee to simply stay in their running game, even though they're very bullheaded in that, if they can get ahead, they can really force these guys out of their element and make Tannehill beat them in the air.
The Titans have, in the last couple of years, been a little bit of a flash in the pan in the sense they'll show up and then not kind of continue through that playoff run. How important is it to come out, kind of show themselves, and can they go pretty far with this?
I believe so. I think, again, Tennessee is one of those teams that you just don't want to encounter. And if they resemble anything of the sort of before Derrick Henry got hurt, then obviously you know how dangerous this team could be. And how far can they go? I think that they have a totally different approach to their entire team than any other team in the AFC. The only other team that you can kind of say was as physical as them possibly was the New England Patriots, and they got their butts kicked by Buffalo last week. So this is the most physically dominant team, and whenever you're facing that this time of the year in cold weather conditions, that's a huge advantage.
Do you have any picks for us?
I'm going to have to go with Tennessee on this one. I just think that their version of bully ball is going to be too much for this Cincinnati Bengals team. And I think Cincinnati's going to have to force Joe Burrow to throw this thing in the air. He'll have his success, but I think that he's going to learn a hard second-year QB lesson in the playoffs this year.
And you think Aaron Rodgers finally going to get the monkey off his back and beat the 49ers?
Oh, yeah. Aaron, Mr. MVP. Give it to him. I think he's going to ball out.
All right. We only had one upset last week. I don't really see either of these number 1 seeds going down, but it is the NFL. We do have to watch and see how things play out. That's Isaiah. I'm Kainani. Thank you for joining us for Locked On NFL.